Max.
And I'm A Marvelous.
And we are the Rentertainers. We're here today to bring you point number 3, being prepared. Now, we also became prepared ourselves. We brought with us a superstar agent, Marco McKenzie. Marco, how's it going?
Doing good. I'm doing good.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you, actually.
Definitely.
You can go now.
Need me to go?
No, I'm kidding. Well, we're not prepared yet.
All right, we're not.
We got to prepare our people here. So everyone has questions as to what we need to do to be prepared when going to an appointment, what we should bring with us, what we shouldn't bring with us, what we should be prepared to expect. These are all things that we're going to touch on today. Amar, what would you say would be the first thing you would bring with you to an appointment if you had to go see a private landlord?
Wow, private landlord. Definitely, I would bring my paperwork. It might seem unnecessary, but you figure with so many apartments and so many people looking to get pretty much the same apartment as you want to show that you're organized and prepared and qualified in the landlord's eyes to rent this apartment. So definitely 3 most recent pay stubs, W-2/tax returns. If you don't have anything else, just the basics, that's good to always carry with you no matter how many apartments you see.
Got it. Now, I noticed you touched on a few things and you pretty much said basic paperwork. Now, Marco, I know you have a lot of connections with your landlords. They all trust you. They talk to you and stuff like that. But now, when you come there with your clients, what is the basic paperwork that you have them bring with you, whether it's management? I mean, maybe you want to go into a little bit of detail on that to give them the information.
Well, for management, your paperwork has to be good automatically for management because they have a lot more rules, a lot more documentation you're going to need. But for a private landlord, my landlord more lean towards my knowledge of the client. So I would need a client to just be right up front with me right away before I even bring him to my landlord.
Up front about what? Like what kind of things?
I need to know how much you make, which is a very normal question. Most clients don't like to tell a real estate agent for some whatever crazy reason what they make.
Okay.
We need to know. We represent you. So we need to know how much you make a year. Like Amar said, we need to see 3 recent pay stubs. If you have a job letter, that would be great. But just come to the showing prepared because so many people are seeing this apartment. It's basically first come, first serve. So if I go show the apartment, Max, 1 o'clock, and my client never had the paperwork, and the landlord was there at the viewing, and he liked that person, if another person showed up with another agent, like say for Amar, say 2 o'clock, and his client had the paperwork, possibly as good as an agent I am, the landlord might take this because landlords don't got time to wait.
Okay. So landlords usually trying to rent their stuff between the next 15 days, right?
They want to rent it the same day.
Same day.
Same day. There's actually same day closing.
Yes. So now, credit reports. I just want to touch on that a little bit, not to go too in detail, because we will have, by the way, full disclosure, we're working on getting us a mastermind in credit.
Yes.
He knows everything, all the ins and outs. I've been in the business before. I can tell you a lot, but he can tell you a lot more. But now you mentioned credit. You wanted to know what they have up front. You want them to be up front with you. Now, there's certain things, obviously, we know people go through hard times in their life. They go through divorce, and they might have bad credit. But is there still a possibility for them to get an apartment?
Absolutely.
Okay. And where would you take them?
Well, if someone out there has bad credit, it's not the end of the world. We all have bad credit. You got people that have student loans. If a landlord see that you have student loan, or even a management, if we have really good relation, like if an agent has good relationship with a management company, with someone we could speak to, we can present your case. But most of the time, we're going to go with a private landlord if you have bad credit. So if your credit is, say, in the 600s, not the end of the world. If I know the landlord, myself, or Max.
I'm Max.
See, I point the wrong way. Cameras. Anyway, this is Max. So if the landlord that I know say, hey, Marco, why is this client's paperwork, why is their credit at 500? I say, well, they're going to school, they have student loans, they're trying to pay it off. They'll be more lenient. To management, most of the time we can't speak to someone, they're just looking at paperwork and fitting their guidelines. That's an automatically no. And we're trying to save clients money, so we don't want to apply for management and you get denied and you just waste, application fee, which is non-refundable.
Okay. Now,
You can go ahead.
now, when someone calls you now, I want them to be prepared with what's going to come at them. Someone calls me, you, Amar, a management company, a private owner. What are some of the main questions, Amar? I think you were talking about this before when we privately. There was a couple of questions that you were talking about that when you ask your clients on the phone, the first point of contact. What should they be prepared with when they're looking for the apartment? I mean, I know we went into a little bit of knowing what you want. So
Right.
besides the fact, all right, we went over in detail with you. Everyone knows what they want. They found out that they have a picture of the apartment they want in their head. Now they're calling you and they're telling you what they want. You went through those details. What else are they going to need to be prepared with?
Well, I think again the neighborhood comes into question,
Okay.
especially in Brooklyn. So you definitely have to pretty much ask the landlord straight up, what don't they like? I know that might seem unorthodox, but if you get a feel for what the landlord doesn't like, you get a feel for their past experience with prior tenants.
Okay.
And in that way, it's non-threatening, and you may know what the landlord likes, and they may say something that might not rub you the right way.
Okay.
So you don't even have to go out and look. They may have said something, or their requirements might not mesh with yours. So you know right off the bat that that's just not for you. So
Okay.
definitely try to get a feel for the landlord themselves. Does the landlord live on the premises?
Yes, that's the key.
I noticed that a lot of landlords that live on the premises, they tend to be a little bit more like
Strict.
protective and strict
Yeah,
of their
yeah.
apartment.
They feel like it's theirs. They feel they have this mentality, and you can't blame it in the sense that you're living on their property. They want to know who else is living in their house with them.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
you're not a
also-
family member. You're a new person
Right.
to them. They want to feel
Exactly.
comfortable with you.
It's also a safety issue as well. If you wouldn't let a random person into your home. So that's why a lot of times landlord or management asks all these questions because they want to make sure. It's not really you get an apartment. You're given an apartment. It's a match made between. If you have landlord, tenants, everyone is happy. It's like perfect in real estate, which is not all the time, but we try our best to get the landlord and the perfect tenants to be in one.
Definitely.
So we covered over what we needed. Now, one thing I get called for a lot, and I'm going to touch this a little bit, is cash clients. People tell me, "Oh, I have the money." Okay, well, they can't show it, or they show it on bank statements. Is this something that you're accustomed to? Is this something that works? Is it something that doesn't work? What do you usually recommend to them? I mean, you tell them get a guarantor. Where is?
Well, for me personally, I've had a cash client before that was like, "Hey, don't need a lawyer. My credit stinks. I got all the money. Pay a year up front." I'm like, "Sounds great. I'm getting paid right now." But the only problem is some people don't care how much money you have in the bank. So even if you work off the books, you shouldn't worry. But if you have your employer write you a letter, and we can bring that to the landlord, that can help your case because they want to know if you're a reliable person. We don't care how much money you have. We just want to know, are you going to pay my rent?
Well, this is not going to be for management.
No, it's for independent
This is
landlord.
going to be for an independent landlord because management's won't send.
It won't work with
And
management.
that's very important, the difference in private and
So and now again, don't forget when we say now management's out of hand. Now you can't say I'm a cash client, but I want to live in a big building.
No.
Big buildings are run by managements. It's very rarely do you see a high-rise building or a building of more than 20 units that's not run by management. It's too much for one person to handle.
Yeah, I mean, real estate, we're really good at our job, but we're not magic makers. We can't.
Speak for yourself.
No, I've done some crazy deals, but listen, I'm keeping it 100 with you guys. It's the more honest you are with the agent, the easier the agent job is, and less stressful your search for an apartment going to be
Yeah.
in New York City.
Also, the more straightforward you are with the landlord.
Exactly, because
Because
my
more straightforward.
credibility is on the line, and if you lie to me and I take it as a truth and I go to the landlord, credibility shot.
Makes
Now-
a lot of sense.
There is one thing, and I'm actually, started to kind of mention this a little bit more with the people I work with. It might be a little bit more time consuming, but I think it can definitely help you out a lot. One thing I would suggest is if you can, if it's a big building, with over like I guess six units or more,
Okay.
try to get the rent roll for the previous year. because if an apartment is vacant, there's only a certain amount of increase that a landlord can raise the rent in comparison to the last tenant that lived in the apartment. So maybe you may be overcharged, you know. So if you're going out for a place and it's a big building, see what the rent roll is, and then see exactly what that unit was rented for, you know. So if you come across an apartment, you may actually help yourself by realizing that it's completely overpriced, and you know the city actually helps you out with that. So if that's the case, you'll get it for way lower. So that's just something that some of you that might be detail oriented can look at.
Some management will disclose it with you when they do the construction of the apartment and tell you the reason why the rent is and why it's not. Some management will just say, "Hey, that's the price." So that's a great point that you
That is
brought
a
up.
great point. So that means that I should speak to my landlord now?
Yes, you actually should, because he has to give it to you at that price, and you could filter some of the money back to us.
I will. I thought I was saving.
Oh, one thing. I remember what a lot of clients need to. With landlords, it's much cheaper to have a pet, like a pet deposit. That's a big thing. I've seen clients not take apartment because of pet deposits. Managements, most of the time, pet deposit could be $250, a whole month's rent, whatever price they throw out. With an independent landlord, I could work my charm, smile a lot, and definitely probably get that out there.
But no, the pet deposit is actually something that we didn't talk about at all, which I'm excited you brought up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will come in asking if the buildings are pet friendly or not. And it turns out you might even walk into a building where it looks like it's pet friendly because there's a million tenants in there with pets.
Yeah, it may not
But
be.
don't forget, if they change their policy and they're now a no pet zone and they told you on the phone no, even though you walked in there you saw, there are times where they have previous tenants where they can't tell them anything because they had a lease with them already that said they were allowed to have a pet.
Exactly.
So just because you've seen a pet in the building doesn't mean that you can have a pet in the building. And another thing about that is, again, disclosing this to the landlord at first. You don't want to go there, see an apartment, fall in love with it. The landlord loves you, and now he finds out you have a pet, and he doesn't want to take it. You don't want to give it up. And now you're put in a dilemma where, well, I feel like I found my dream apartment, and now any other apartment you see is not going to match up to it.
Yeah, you gotta let us know right away. Don't tell us you have a dog, a small dog, and it's a 95-pound dog. That is a problem.
And if you have a pet, there's one thing that I can recommend, which actually worked for me a few times. They actually brought papers with them for their pet. They brought in their full documentation from their veterinarian and said, this is what my dog has, this is the shots he's been taking, this is everything. He's not a stray dog.
Nice.
And they actually said, the landlord looked at that, even though he told me, Max, I want pets, but he actually said, you know what, Max, I can deal with that if it means that it's taken care of. It's the same thing as a client who has a credit report that says an 800. You know, your job might be the greatest. You might have just started a brand new job. You have an 800 credit. I could deal with that because I can see that you're a responsible person. The same way with the pet. I don't like pets, but I'm willing to take it because I can see you're a responsible person over your pet.
Yeah. So to backtrack a little bit, so when you're going to go view an apartment, bring a little folder. Come to the apartment or the appointment dressed, professionally, because appearance is everything.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
So if you meet a landlord, you can sway them in your direction. So come with a copy of your photo ID, last 3 pay stub, W-2 from the year before, or a tax return. And if you have a job letter, that's even better.
Definitely.
And also another thing that most people started to bring with them is actually canceled red checks. Showing landlords to say, hey, look, you don't even got to tell. You don't got to call anybody. Here, look, this is what I paid.
I'm on time.
I'm on time with my rent.
The man that's prepared is a man that won't fail. Remember
That's right.
That is definitely true.
So I'm dropping gems on you guys right now.
See, that's why we bring the experts.
That's how we bring the superstars with us.
Right
You
now.
want to wrap it up real quick?
Double check, baby. Let's go.
That's right. So,
Alright.
that's pretty much, this video is shorter than a lot of the other ones, but it's just that simple. The more you have to support yourself, the easier it is to kind of get the apartment that you want. Like we covered in the other video, a lot of stuff you can do before you even head out to the apartment. But just having this basic paperwork, it gives the landlord a glimpse of who you are. Having a physical presentation gives them a glimpse of, how you present yourself to others. And once you break down that barrier, any other shortcomings you might have, you'll be more able to negotiate with the landlord when in other areas you could not.
Well, one last thing. I didn't think we touched on it. Guarantor or a co-signer before we go. That was very important. So if you know,
slow down. We didn't even start off with telling them what they needed to make.
you can make. Well, I'm gonna get into it.
Okay, so let's get into it.
First
See,
of all,
we gotta be
person.
prepared.
One person.
Nah,
Oh yeah, we're not prepared. We're so doing this every day. Skipping ahead.
Automatic.
All right. You need to make 40 times the rent. One person. If you both make 40 times the rent together, it's fine. But a guarantor needs to make 80 times the rent. When we say guarantor, it's a fancy word for co-signer. So don't get discouraged by guarantor.
Okay, so that means that if I don't make 40 times the rent, but you make 80 times the rent, you can help me get a lease.
Yes, the reason why you need to make 80 times the rent is because you need to be able to cover for the person that you're co-signing,
Okay.
and also still cover for yourself.
Okay,
Because just in case I cover for you, and then
and then you can't afford for
can't
yourself.
afford for my own lifestyle. My life is messed up now.
Okay.
This guarantor is
Now, is it okay if
not
I
guaranteed.
Is it okay if I live in Florida?
You can live anywhere. I mean, we've done deals. People live in Canada, but
Okay.
they prefer someone in America.
Okay.
It could be any state, because
Right.
kids move all over.
Okay. Got it. So now, if I like an apartment, I don't make 40 times the rent. I call up Marco. Guys,
Yeah.
take down his number. You could call him for a guarantor. He'll sign it for you. No, I'm kidding. But you got to make 80 times the rent. Credit score should be in good standing condition, and then you can sign for me, with me, I should say, because it's not for me, it's with me.
Yeah, they're signing with you.
Okay.
So the guarantor is just like, say, for a college student, someone might be busting your chops about you have student loans and credit is a little lower. You just get your guarantor, which makes a certain amount of money, 80 times the rent, more than you, whatever it may be, and with your income and their income, you should be good to go.
Now, just to define real quick, 40 times rent, 80 times rent is the monthly rent. So 40 times the monthly rent of, let's say, $1,000 a month is $40,000 a year.
Exactly.
Just to give you guys an idea of what it is. So that means that the guarantor would need to make $80,000 to get you approved for a $1,000 apartment, which doesn't exist. But
Don't even bring up $1,000.
I
That's
had it for-
that's
it was for argument's sake.
$19.99.
Yeah,
that was
that's-
argument's sake.
That's
Listen.
like it's like seeing a dinosaur now. Get it.
I mean, it's 2015. My mother friends call me about these apartments, and it's stressful.
Yeah.
not in New York City.
The unicorn apartments are a thing of the past.
Yeah, definitely. But like we said, guarantor 80 times the rent. The average person should make around 40 times the rent to cover their rental expenses.
Now, I do want to say this too. If you do have it to where you fall short, you don't make 40 times the rent or your credit, because the average credit score in New York City is 690. So if your score isn't that good, or great, I suggest bank statements. Now, the thing with bank statements is they can shoot you in the foot or they can help you. If you don't have money in the bank, some landlords look at that as unstable. So if you could use bank statements. If you don't have that much in the bank, you could. I would suggest, if you know people, close relatives, maybe have them put the money in your account. Then you present it to the landlord. They can show some stability.
Know what that's called? Padding your account.
Padding. Now, if you were getting
I
a
don't know
house,
if this is illegal or not, but hey, listen, do
Well,
what you gotta do.
Yeah, but if you don't want to pad, and you want to use bank statements, that's another way of kind of making the landlord feel at ease with renting you the apartment if you don't have great credit or your income isn't as high.
Also, for like someone that's just getting a job, they may not have that money in their account, but on your job offer letter, it will show how much money you will make.
Right.
That is
So
correct.
that's also to say, hey, listen, I don't have this amount of money, but hey, next year it would say on my statement that I make $100,000 for the year. So
Now,
Definitely.
I just want to add one more thing that I can't believe I didn't talk about. This is really important. Like we forgot all about this.
please, go ahead.
Okay. Now I've seen where people come in where they had jobs there where they made tremendous amount of money, and usually a lot of people were even mortgage brokers in the time when they made a lot of money. The market crashed, and now they're out of jobs. They just got something to start them up, but they still have money in the bank to supply themselves. And what happens is they come to an apartment, they love it, they want it, and they apply for it, and they can't get it because their income isn't 40 times the rent. But even though they might have money in the bank, Now, what happens is, and that this is just one case scenario. It could be your credit score wasn't where the landlord wants it to be. It could be something minute of the financials that you didn't get approved for the apartment. Which will happen is, you might be able to get away by saying, "Hey, look, you're asking for the first month's rent and the first month's security. I'll give you an extra security, or I'll give you the last month's rent in addition."
Right.
Something of that sort to show, like, here, I'm giving a little bit. Let's be fair. Let's make a deal here. Let's make this happen. Now, for those who say, well, I don't have that money in my bank to give out an extra security, or I can't afford that right now, don't be alarmed. There are many ways of making it happen. First of all, if your credit's not that good, they have, for landlords, you can purchase something called Insurent, where they can insure you for bad credit, and the landlord will be able to get his money if they don't pay. They have a broker's key, which is pretty much if you don't have the extra security money, you can borrow it at a really good rate. They'll give it to you in the money in the bank the next day. Not only that, but they actually give you a suffice amount to cover your first month's rent, security, the broker's fee. They'll give you money for moving, the trucks, what you have to pay for, anything that you need. If you're out for a day and you need it because you're not working out, you need extra money to eat that night, it's included. They'll let you borrow it.
For those of you that use agents and you're worried about the upfront fee, Max, that's a good point. Broker fee, I mean, it's a lifesaver.
Broker's key.
Broker key, pardon me. It's a lifesaver.
It is one of the best things you can do. You can check it out. It's easy to get approved for. It happens instantaneously. No pay. I mean, they might ask you for some paperwork, but not up front. It's all really quick. It's an easy application.
Low interest.
Low interest.
Very
and
low
again,
interest.
Insurent also. It is a very, very good website. Check it out. They will help you if you can't get approved for an apartment. Check it out. They insure you in a sense, and the landlord might even like it better than knowing that you have that coming in.
Okay, is there anything that we forgot, guys? Sure.
I think that's pretty much.
I think we got everything prepared. Alright, so there's one last breakdown. Paperwork, what do you think they need?
3 most recent pay stubs, W-2s, employment letter,
Cancel rent checks.
checks. Those are the basics. Bank statements if you have adequate amounts.
In a nice folder.
Nice folder, presented, neat. Copy of your identification.
That's key because they might not remember who the hell you are.
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah. So,
Oh, I almost forgot. You want to ask the landlord if they have other applicants, because what a lot of landlords do is they'll leverage applications, and that process can take weeks. Just because they want to get the perfect.
Exactly.
Feel power.
Yeah. So make sure you're firm on that. How soon does it take for you to come back with a decision? 1 to 3 days? Do you have other applicants?
that's very important.
That's very important. You don't want to wait.
Because-
And keep looking while you submit.
If they're
application is in.
leveraging your application, you better make sure you keep looking.
Yes, have backups.
Have a backup because you will get turned down 9 out of 10 times.
Yes.
And don't think that's from you. Don't get discouraged. They're
Mhm.
just leveraging applications. There might be somebody that just has a 790 instead of a 780,
Yeah. And they want that extra 10.
and they want it.
And a good way to gauge that is just to ask the landlord, how long has this been on the market? If it's 3 days, that they pretty much have time to see what's out there.
Yeah.
If it's 3 weeks,
No, they gotta get that right.
they
Yeah,
gotta
they
get
don't-
it ready. It's
No
the end of the
landlord want
month.
to wait a month.
No.
Okay?
So that's pretty much it. We hope you enjoy. Thank you, Marco, for coming out.
I'm Marco
We really
McKenzie of
appreciate
Rapid
it.
Realty. She said, Bay.
We really appreciate you coming out here, meeting us, and having this conversation with us. So again, I'm Max,
I'm A Marvelous.
and this is Marco McKenzie, and we're the Rentertainers.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.